Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Hi and welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I do hope you are well and getting results with your team as ever. And of course, you know what I'm going to be talking around. I'm going to be talking around all things in this show: management, communication, leaderships, and much, much more. I'm your host, Matthew Haddock, and as ever, please rate, share, and do whatever you can to make this show better for others. People who you might know, people who are in leadership positions who might want to listen around how you can get better, how you can improve your techniques, and how you can become a better leader and manager within whatever field you're in. This week, I'm going to dive into the idea of how do you make sure your processes and procedures are kept going when you're not there, when you don't have a management presence there. Okay, so let's have a think about it. If you're ever in that sort of position as a manager, and we've all been there, where we get a process in, we get a procedure in, we think this is brilliant, this is going to work, this is going to be fine, and then you step away for a few days to concentrate on something else, or you kind of basically move on to the next cycle because that's what you got to do, and then you come back and it's chaos. You've something you've watched carefully, something you've crafted, over just unravels, just goes, and you think, well, what's happened there? Well, look, you're not alone. This happens to me, and it's happened to everyone else in the leadership. And even recently, speaking to people, it's, well, why don't people just do what they're told to do? Why can't they just follow the procedure? Well, what I want to do today is look at why these things happen, because there's always a why. There's always a reason why things go wrong. And it's, surprise, surprise, not normally the person. It's normally you and the manager and the way you've put it in or the processes you've set up that falls apart. So the show's going to look at three areas: the common mistakes leaders make when they let habits slide, why it feels like people ignore the rules, I just mentioned that, and most importantly, how to create a culture where the right processes stick for good. Okay, so let's jump in. Firstly, so why it all falls apart when you're not watching. So here's a scenario for you. This probably will sound familiar. You've put some time in and effort, as I said earlier, into creating a procedure. Maybe it's how to handle a customer complaint, how to set up or run a production line in the best way, how to make sure your stock systems are logged correctly when stuff arrives, even the service calls that you've got to schedule in business, how are these things. And if what you've done in your mind, again, this is from your perspective, if you've trained the team, maybe you've created some documents or checklists on how it works, if sound familiar, and things run smoothly for a while, but then you just turn your focus to another area, and boom, suddenly people are back doing things the old ways. And in your mind, that's cutting the corners to get to wherever they are. Them shortcuts have crept back in. Standards have been dropped, and things go wrong. And then what? Well, you're back to square one. So why does that happen? Let's be clear. It's usually, not, and I repeat, usually not because the people are lazy or trying to sabotage your business. Well, you'd hope they're not trying to sabotage your business. I've always believed, and I'm sure you do, that people come to work to do a good job. They don't turn up to make mistakes. They don't turn up to make it hard for themselves. They do a thing for a reason. It can be frustrating. It can be wind you up like mad that you think, why? Why haven't they done it that way? But I don't think they walk through the door in the morning to think, I'm just going to sit around, do nothing. You may differ. Obviously, you can send me that feedback if you think it's different. But there's three things that do happen, and does happen, that you need to think about. There's a lack of reinforcement. So the first point why these things fall apart, lack of reinforcement. Procedures fade fast without consistent reminders or accountability. And that's a big thing when we talk about leadership. It's about the accountability part of it. How do you make sure people are accountable, that you've reinforced those procedures and they are accountable for it? The second one, there's no buy-in. If people don't believe in the way behind the process, then they default to the comfortable old habits. And as they say, old habits die hard because the buy-in's not there. And thirdly, the processes aren't designed to survive the real world pressure that they're under. Some systems look great on paper. We all know that. You sketch it out, or you've got some fancy piece of software, but it collapses under that day-to-day hustle straight away. You can't have armchair procedure writers or someone these days who just plugs it into AI and boom, there's your procedure. That's not real. It's not personal. So of course, as you expect, if those three things aren't there, there's a lack of reinforcement, there's no buy-in, and it's not designed for the real world, then of course it survives. But if your team see the rules as theirs and not something that's done to them, then obviously they're more likely to follow it. They've been designing it. And that's that gap in culture that we need to close, and it not become a personal attack against people being stupid or thick or can't follow the rules. And you do hear that a lot. And it's a real catch yourself. If you ever see in your mind's eye, you're saying those things, then you've got to stop yourself. If you start blaming that person, normally lower down the organisation. You know, you do get some peer-to-peer moaning in businesses, that's natural. Don't say it's good, but it happens. But if you're blaming the people at the bottom about them not following the procedures, first thing you need to say is, I've not written that procedure right, or I've not involved those people, I've not got buy-in. Do that before you do any of that. So let's have a look at it. So the common mistakes that kill consistency. Let's go into it a little bit more. Let's talk about those classic mistakes leaders make, and I've just touched a little bit on there, that allow those systems to slip. Well, firstly, announcing procedures instead of embedding them. We've sort of touched on that a little bit. You know, you just don't roll out a new SNOP in a meeting and expect it to stick. It has to be embedded in the rhythm of that business. So you can't just get it, announce it, send an email. Oh, you hear that a lot. What's happened? Oh, it's all gone wrong. Why? People don't follow procedures. Well, what have you done? Well, I sent them an email. Oh, right, brilliant. Did you show them? Did you involve them? No, but I sent them an email. Whoa, funnily enough, not going so well, is it? There's no accountability loop. No one tracks the compliance or offers of feedback. Say on the show all the time, you've heard it before, feedback is such a gift and it works all the way down and up a business. If you're not offering good feedback on why that procedure is not working or giving people a chance, naturally, they're going to go back to what they know, what they've easily done. Some people have done it for years. So if you're going to try and bring something new in or make something different to what it is, and it might be, and it probably is because you know it's the right thing to do, if it hasn't gone through that accountability loop, it's not going to work. Thirdly, overcomplications of things. If a process is too long, hard to remember, it's not going to go well, is it? You need to chunk it down. Your team will ditch it when they feel under pressure because they know how to do the other one. It's like driving to work. You all drive to work, and I'm thinking 99% of the time you'll go the same route or route. You're listening in America. You'll go the same route every day. Unless there's some sort of traffic or unless there's some sort of roadworks, you'll go the same way. And that's because, you know what, your brain doesn't have to think. It's a lazy brain. It wants to make easy shortcuts. So when things go wrong, they're not going to go, let's get that real big book out, go through that procedure that we've just learned that no one's really as no one's really showed us and we've not got an accountability in it. We'll go back to what we know. So that's the third thing, overcomplication. Be aware of that. And then the fourth one is failing to model it. If you and your managers embed the rules and then you decide you're going to bend them. So you've embedded them, you think you're doing the right thing, but then you bend them. Oh, just this one time. Let's just do it this way this time. I think we'll be okay. It'll get us through it. Then obviously that culture will follow. The behaviour is modelled. So if you see managers making the shortcuts or you do it yourself, then obviously if you're failing to model it, it's going to fall apart pretty quick because people see you doing it. Well, it's okay. If he does it, he's a leader. I can do it. And the fifth one, no real consequences. This is the last part of it. I'm always around positivity, as you know. I'm always around getting the best out of people and giving people all the skills and truths and abilities to make the right decisions. But if there's no real consequences, you know, if nothing happens when someone ignores the process, then it sends a message that the process doesn't matter. So there has to be a consequences. So let's just go through them 5 when we look about the common mistakes. Announcing procedures instead of embedding them is number 1. No accountability loops, number 2. Overcomplicating things is number 3. Failing to model it is number 4. And no real consequences is number 5. So let's move on now. We know the mistakes and why these happen. So what are the 5 areas that we can say can embed a procedure and make it stick for good? How do you build those processes that actually live in your business? Not just in your head or in a folder on your computer, but they're actually there. So let's have a look at solid 5 steps for this framework. And funny enough, it's going to be quite the opposite of the mistakes. So you need to build with input from the front lines. No surprise. People support what they help to create. Involve your team in shaping the procedures so they are practically and meaningfully involved. People are clear on what they are trying to do, what they bring, and obviously the brightest people in those rooms, and it's not you, it's definitely not you, you're not the brightest person in the room, but the brighter people in the room will remember it, make it work. So build the inputs with the front line people. Anchor it into the why. Start with the why all the time. So people need to know why that procedure exists. Is it to protect the quality? Is it to save time? Is it to avoid errors? Tie that procedure to the outcomes that matter. They do care. They want to be involved. Honestly, they do. So if you can tie it into it, if it's something about a safety, if it's something about the quality, something about making their business last. Remember, people come to work to pay mortgages, pay bills. If you can anchor it into the fact that the business gets better, if you do those procedures right, then that makes it easy to anchor it to the why. Number 3, train, retain, and remind people. So train, retain, remind. It's not one and done. Repetition builds habits. We've talked about that a minute ago. Use those daily stand-up meetings, your weekly scoreboards, or even digital reminders. I know I mentioned about emails. Emails as a reminder is fine, but the personal face-to-face is the best way. Fourthly, measure what matters. What gets measured gets managed. Create simple ways to track compliance and make sure the results are visible. Make it part of that daily review. So is that a KPI? Is that a way that you get out there and walk it? Layer confirmation, you might have heard that being used in some places. That's going down and seeing things happening, watching it happen. If you go to a car assembly line and you see them putting on, I've seen this, a rubber seal around the door. We've all got rubber seals on the door so they don't leak. There's a way of putting that seal on that's the most effective from a quality and a time and making sure it don't fail at the end. And if people don't do it the right way, then it will leak. So the managers and team leaders will go down and they'll layer confirm. They'll get the procedure of the door seal and they'll watch somebody doing it and make sure it's right. And that's measuring it. Measure what matters. And the last one is empower teams' level of ownership. So don't let everyone see it flowing just from you at the top. Train your team leaders or your champions in those areas who are responsible to make sure they keep the standards alive. So it's not your standard, it's their standards. They've done it, they've built it, they've got it anchored to the why, you've trained and retained it, and then you've measured it, and then you make sure the people are empowered. So that's how you make it stick. So let's move on a little bit. What to do when people ignore the rules. And this is the bit that people do get a bit squeamish about. This part is tough, but it's necessary. Let's say we've trained it out, we've involved people, we've reminded people, we've enforced them, we've empowered them, and then someone still skips the steps. They take a shortcut or they refuse to do the procedure. Let's go back to the door seal. This one person on one shift only puts it on his way or her way, and then those particular ones that he or she is doing fail more. They've got the procedure, they've done the layer confirmation, but they choose, and there's choices in life, not to follow it. What do you do? So ask yourself, firstly, before you go anywhere else, because it's easy to go, disciplinary, let's use disciplinary, or the worst one, let's just retrain. Firstly, ask yourself, is the process itself broken or unrealistic? So go back around the loop. Is it right? Did they undertake and understand when they got the job what to do? Did that person really understand and agree to it? Are they part of that process? So that's the second question you ask. Are there cultural signs that the rules are an option? So are managers breaking rules? Are people making shortcuts? I've had times, especially in safety procedures, where we've done the reinforcement, we've explained the why, and we still get individuals breaking it. And there is a time when you have to be more formal, when it's gone to a procedure, they've said and cited, well, my manager does it that way around, my team leader does it that way around. The more investigation we do, the more we review, is true. And that shows the culture isn't right. So those are the things you do first. If none of them are applicable, so they've been part of the process, they understand and have agreed to it, and the culture's not there, then it might be time for a disciplinary issue. But addressed as a behaviour and an exception to the rule, not a personal one. Use it as a coaching opportunity first, just to correct where they're going. You've got to hold people account, but it's not with anger, it's with clarity. Here's the expectation. You don't meet it. Let's talk about how that is affecting everything, and let's talk about how we can make sure we can fix it so going forward it's improved. Now, if things don't improve, there's whole casts on this, it does move into a more formal process. And every business will have a procedure to follow. You don't go to dismissal straight away. You don't do that. That's not how it works. But you do go through a process. Now, there is times where it may circumvent higher up. If it is a safety breach, for instance, or a serious breaching, something that can really affect the customers, or it's fraudulent, then it would go further and higher. So be aware that that might happen. But majority of these things are people not doing something day to day that they should be doing, that they need to do to make sure it's right. So let's have a think about it, the final thought. So, let's have a look at this idea of where we've come from. So we've got procedures in place that don't actually get followed. What's the big takeaway? The goal isn't to be the watchdog. You cannot be there all the time. It's not possible. The goal is to build a system and a culture that runs the right way without you standing over it. Processes only stick when they make sense, they're reinforced, they're owned by the team, and there's real accountability. When those are in place, you can finally do what great leaders do. Step back and focus on the big picture, confidently that the day-to-day is under control. Well, look, thanks for listening. Your day-to-day, I hope, is under control, and I hope you've taken some benefits on how you can make stuff stick. One of the habits you do need to get into is sending me feedback, as it's a gift. So send it to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. Write that down if you haven't already. Send us some feedback on the show or any other show, and I'd love to explore your thoughts on how you've made procedures stick without the big stick. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.